Oh, okay.
Hi, guys. Welcome to Happy and Wise. My name is Chris. I'm a happiness coach here to teach you the feel good cheat codes to happiness and easy, logical, common sense ways to create the kind of life you want. Sharon. Oh, no. Did we lose Sharon? Oh, no. Okay. So live technical difficulties, but Sharon, your screen is completely blank. Hopefully you can hear me and maybe come back. Uh-oh. Okay, well, while Sharon figures that out, let me introduce the show real quick and get our topic out there. And then hopefully by the time we're done, Sharon will be back. There she is. Can you hear us, Sharon?
Sorry. Yes. This is live stream glitch. I had my phone on do not disturb, but a call came through. So weird. Anyway,
okay.
Thanks for carrying us for a few seconds there, Chris. I'm Sharon Hoffman, and I'm all about guiding us to our wisdom. Chris and I met on Clubhouse, and we have really tuned into the same principles in our lives. I guide people to their wisdom, Chris to their happiness, and this is a great place to meet. So we've started doing these live streams together. We really want everybody who's as curious as we are to have this information. That's what we're doing here. We're really excited.
Yeah, and today the topic is really fun because it's one of those things that's really game changing in our life, which is how to change the negative thoughts we have. We all have negative thoughts, and one of the superpowers of life is to figure out what we can do with those to transform them and then ourselves. Because if we transform our thoughts, if we change our thoughts, we change our experience, we change how life feels to us, how life goes for us. And so it's such an important exercise. And today we're going to get into the specifics of how to do that. We're going to talk to some cool people on what their life is and how they're thinking about that stuff and what they might want to shift. And then we'll give you all the cheat codes and tidbits and insights that we have to help you do that for yourself.
And if you have any questions about this or you want to weigh in yourself, please put it in the chat. We're streaming live on Facebook and on YouTube simultaneously, and we can see all of the comments, and we're happy to have you join us. We do have a special guest to talk about this. I do want to say that this negative thoughts are hidden. The only person who would know that they're going on is us. And sometimes we're not even aware. We have these loops playing. But here's the thing, when we have challenges in our lives, sometimes it comes down to reprogramming those negative thoughts, changing them into a positive program.
Exactly. So I have a little, I guess, formula, if you will, for doing this that I would love to share. And then we can get into specifics with our guest. How's that sound?
Great. Let's hear what you got.
Okay. So the way I like to think about it is our negative thoughts cause us, if we think about them enough, we get a negative thought, and sometimes we pick it up from our parents, sometimes we pick it up from society, the media, our friends, coworkers, whatever. Like, we hear people say things all the time, and we pick up on them. And if we repeat that thought to ourselves over and over and over again, it becomes a belief. And now we suddenly believe that, and then we start operating that way. So the best way to change those beliefs, those thoughts, those stories that we tell ourselves over and over and over again is, first, we have to catch them. Like, you have to know that you're doing that. If you catch yourself saying something negative, like, I don't feel good enough, or, I can't do this. That's such a big one. I can't do this. Those kind of thoughts, if you repeat them enough, you start to believe it. So first you have to catch yourself, and you could do that by just listening to your own emotional guidance. It's like, does something hit you as like, this feels off, this feels bad, this makes me feel shitty, this makes me feel lonely, this makes me feel weak, this makes me feel whatever. Catch that and say, okay, I must be telling myself something negative. And then you want to find basically you're looking for a new belief, a new thought that meets two criteria. One is it feels good to you, because if it doesn't feel good, what's the point anyway? It's like, why are we even bothering with this?
And can I chime in about that too?
Yes.
The thoughts that don't feel good, the negative thoughts, oftentimes They're beliefs we have that we think are written in stone. We think they are absolute truths.
Right.
And the deeper truth is that we are limitless as beings. And so many times we are the ones who create our own constraints. They don't actually exist in concrete.
Yeah.
We are just told ourselves, or it's been told to us and we bought into it. So it's really important to understand there may be things that we believe are absolute truths about ourselves. I don't deserve to get this, to have this. This never happens to me because it never has.
Right.
And so then that becomes ingrained in us. So this is part of this negative thought process.
Yes, it like warps our whole world. It makes us see certain things. When we think of belief, it's almost like we think of different, depending on your beliefs, let's say it's a good or a bad one, it will make you think different thoughts in like chains. It will make you go into the world and spot different types of things like that prove you right, right? So if you believe I'm not good enough, you're going to go out into the world, and every time you interact with someone, when you're out even at the grocery store, whatever, you're going to be picking up little things that support that belief. You're going to be cherry picking the things in life that match what you are thinking. And you interpret things differently. So your whole world morphs into to fit that, like you're saying, Sharon, like this solid written in stone thought that you have. But in truth, beliefs and thoughts, they're very flexible, they're very fluid, and we can alter them, we can change them. And when you do, then the real life elements that are in your day can also start to reflect the inner thoughts that you've now changed to. So the two things, again, when you catch yourself doing this, one, you're just trying to find a new belief that feels better to you, and two, makes so much sense to you, whether that's common sense or spiritual sense or some kind of, it just resonates so hard with you that it will be easy to continue to tell yourself that new story instead of going back to the old one. So for example, and so the examples of how to find these new stories are, there are sometimes very specific ones for very specific issues. Like, for example, if you're a people pleaser, I used to be a people pleaser. All like very much like every time someone asked me to do things, I would do it. When someone would invite me somewhere, I would feel obligated to go. I would feel obligated to say yes to things I didn't want to do. I would just keep saying yes, even if I didn't actually want to, even if I felt like, oh, this isn't for me, but I felt pressured. So I would, and I'm this people pleaser, right? So I found
And the thing to notice about that, because we talked about that in an earlier episode, that's such a good topic about obligation to do things,
right,
is that it feels bad on the inside. You know, when we're
Yeah.
joyful about going into an activity or a party or whatever it is, then it doesn't feel obligatory. It only has this heaviness of obligation when it doesn't feel good. And that is what we really want to pay attention to. This is what is so different than the teachings that are out there. There are teachings that to be polite, you accept invitations when they're extended to you. So that's an ingrained belief. And then we don't often go to that next step. How does that register inside of me? Oh, it feels heavy. It feels like an obligation. It just something I really don't want to do. That's really different than I can't wait to go. Let me go there. So that this is the difference between something that is taking a program and just going on autopilot with it versus really paying attention to what you're saying, Chris, that internal guidance system of our emotional state of being. Does it feel good or does it feel bad? This is like the parts to tease out of this.
Yes. And so the specific thing with that is if you have a people pleaser tendency like I did, then something you could tell yourself instead is, this is what I found, the cheat code is, people pleasing is actually great as long as you're one of the people being pleased. You know what I mean? Like in that sense, it's like what you were just saying. As long as you're in it too, as long as, you know, it's great to help people. It's great to do things. It's great to go places. It's great to experience things. If you also want to do it, if that's important to you, if that means something to you. So by every time then, whenever I had this thing come up where I felt like, I feel this pressure to do this, I would remind myself, it's great to do it if I actually want to do it. But if I don't want to do it, I can say no. And that's okay. And just that alone, just continuing to repeat that to myself whenever I fell into this, it allowed me to stop being such a people pleaser. And it still allows me to do cool stuff with people. It still allows me to go places and do things. But but it in a way that feels good to me too, and is at a level where that I want to too. Does that kind of resonate with you, Sharon?
Oh, absolutely. We often don't do this third step, right? We get the
Yeah.
invitation, we accept. The middle step is how does it feel
Right.
inside? And to really honor that. Absolutely. And, to continue this conversation, you think it's time to bring in our special guest?
Yes, let's please do it. Okay, great. Today's guest joining us on the show today is my friend Kaleo. Welcome to the show, Kaleo.
Hi guys, thank you so much for inviting me.
It's great to have you here. I should say that I'm tuning in from Northern California, Mill Valley, just north of the Golden Gate Bridge. Chris is in Los Angeles, and Kaleo is tuning in from Las Vegas. So you've got a mixed group here from
Hell yeah.
the western part of the U.S.
We're trying to
we're
trying to expand.
Yes, exactly. Kaleo, thanks for being here. Thanks for joining us today. Is there something about this the idea of changing negative thoughts that really resonates with you? What are your thoughts on that?
Oh, 100%. I mean, I think every human experiences some way or form of negative thoughts and belief in their lives. For me, definitely when I was younger, I almost had this negative in my mind. When you guys are speaking earlier, one thing that came to my mind was the term of having a negative fulfilling prophecy, right? Where you just believe in your negative thoughts, and when a negative outcome comes about, you just think, oh, that's the result, and that's how I'm going to think about whatever that situation comes about. So I've definitely experienced negative thoughts in the past, and still in my adult life, I still have sporadic negative thoughts, but I definitely know how to manage them well. So I really pay attention to those thoughts that come into my head, and now manage and kind of mitigate those thoughts and kind of limit my thinking and my behavior when it comes about.
Yeah,
Is there an example you can think of a negative thought that you have identified and turned around?
Sure, yeah. So I still play tennis, maybe not so much as of now, but definitely when I was younger, I would play maybe about 5 to 6 days a week. And I remember every time I would have a tennis match, and before my tennis match would even start, the first thing in my head is, I'm going to lose this match.
Oh.
So like going in every time, you're kind of setting yourself up for like this failure.
Failure, right? This negative belief. And whenever I had that thought in the beginning, and when I did lose, I would have this belief like, oh, I lost. And I'm like, why did I lose? And then now, years later, I'm thinking, oh my gosh, my thinking pattern was always the same. I always told myself I'm not good enough to challenge my opponent. And so it just kind of like a ripple effect that just trickled down. And yeah, it was really bad when I was young.
And Kaleo, did you have coaches, tennis coaches?
I did.
And were they ever talking about your inner game, or were they focused on the outer game?
Yes. So funny you say that. Whenever we had like a changeover, I would have my coaches and they talk to me and ask me what am I thinking. And in the beginning, I kind of just shut myself down. I didn't really explain to them my inner thoughts. So I just kind of told them like I'm fine. In the back of my mind, I was thinking, no, you're not fine. You're gonna lose. You're not good enough. And it kept replaying over and over in my head.
Right. A question for you. Like, even in those times, were there moments where you did win certain games, even when you started that with that mindset? Did sometimes you win?
Probably, but I
Uh-huh.
think what really helped me was kind of overcoming that adversity. I mean, it still to this day, it's very, like I said, it's very sporadic, but it's definitely not as near as my thoughts back when I was younger. I'm not sure if there were probably external environments that had played with these thoughts as well, but during maybe the first years of playing tennis, I definitely did not have a positive mindset.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it was definitely a belief in myself that I didn't feel like I couldn't do it and I couldn't perform better or rather well than the other opponents that I've challenged with. So, yeah, I definitely feel that I have overcome that tremendously. So it's definitely, I look back on it and I think, wow, I definitely manage that better now than it was before.
Yeah,
Kaleo,
that's
was there a turning point that helped you to turn that around?
Yeah, I took psychology in college
mm-hmm.
and
Okay.
kind of just learning the different logistics and the different patterns that that have helped me and understand that it's really you're manifesting this in your head
Mm-hmm.
and you're choosing this ultimately to believe in something that's not there, that it's just kind of in your mind in this sense. And so yeah, definitely taking psychology courses has helped me understand uh, better ways of thinking positively, and so I still utilize that to this day. So it's helped me out a lot.
Hell
So,
yeah.
what is your process to actually put the knowledge into application in your life? Because that's a big leap to go from understanding what's happening to actually shifting the habit.
Sure. I usually, whenever I feel like I'm in that type of situation, when a negative event occurs in my mind, I use this approach called thought stopping, which is, it's a technique that helps uh, manage these repetitive thoughts in your head and just block them before they occur. So that's definitely has helped me out a lot as of now.
Hmm. That's so cool. You know what I love about this example is it's such a great way to show how this affects everybody. Like, for example, like early on, you're saying you had these negative thoughts about tennis that would kind of get in your head and make you feel like you weren't good enough, you weren't good at the game, you weren't competitive enough. And it would cause you to feel to be not on your game, is not on your A game. You would play probably worse than you would because your head is, instead of it being clear and open and flexible and focused, you're distracted and fixated on these negative thoughts that you have. But the interesting thing is, the reason I asked you if you had won some game, and you're frozen, by the way, so I don't know if you could hear this. I hope you can. I know your internet connection isn't great, but hopefully you can still hear this. Early on in those games, the reason I asked if you won any games was because even though you do, your mind, if you're still telling yourself that you're not good enough and you're not a winner, whatever that negative thought is, even if the actual physical real world results are, oh, I won a game, your mind can still consistently tell you you're still not good enough. You're still not, you know what I mean, Sharon? It's like this like back and forth in your mind of, even if there are real world results that are different, our mind still tells us, despite the actual evidence that's coming in, we're
Right.
still going to think that we're not good.
Yeah, I think that's why this is a practice to build a new habit. It's not just an awareness. That's the first part, is having an awareness that there's even a negative belief system that's coming in that we're really buying into. But and then the next thing is to be able to catch ourselves, right, when that's happening, and turn that around, just like Kaleo was talking about with the thought stopping, like, oh, I'm not going to keep thinking that negative thought. But this is quite a an in the moment presence practice. Really, we have to be really aware of ourselves in the moment to catch
Mhm.
that and shift that.
Right, right. And so I feel like there's probably a specific answer or a specific angle or a specific perspective. Is Cleo back? I heard something come in.
I know, I
Um
need him back.
He'll be back soon. So I think there is a specific answer or a specific perspective for any issue that we're dealing with. I truly do. It might be hard to find. We might not find it right away. We might not know it in the moment that we're suffering with something or dealing with something or challenge or a problem. But there is someone knows something. Their information is out there, whether it's found in a book or in a song or at a therapist's office or at a coach's session or whatever the thing, there's an answer. But I also like to remind people that there are general things that we can tell ourselves and remind ourselves when we stumble onto these negative thoughts that can really help. So, for example, if you are really stressed and wound up and tight and worried about things, something you can remind yourself is, I know that a relaxed mind is more open, more clear, more myself, more full of information, and going to help me way more. And so, no matter what you're dealing with, something like that can be super helpful to remind yourself of. Oh, I know that I'm super stressed out now, but I also know that if I allow myself to relax, it will help me. So, no matter what the actual specific problem is, remembering certain general things like that can be super helpful, because that's something you can turn to in the meantime until you find that maybe very specific answer to that issue. Having something to fall back on to help you feel better in the moment can be super helpful.
I think Kaleo's back.
Oh, let's bring him back. Okay.
Yeah, let's bring you back, Kaleo. And one
Hi.
other thing I wanted to add to that is that we can also reverse engineer things. You're back with us, Kaleo. Can you hear us?
Yes,
I
can you
think
guys
we
hear
have a.
me?
We
We can.
can. You're a little blurry and a little like your audio's a little weird, but you're here. You're here. We see you.
We're trying, yeah. I'm just saying, and I don't know if you ever do this, Kaleo or Chris, but another way we can deal with the negative thinking is we can reverse engineer. When we noticed something, like even a pattern of things that are not happening or challenging in our life, maybe there's a challenge that keeps recurring. We can kind of get into a curious mode with ourselves and ask,
Mm,
is there some limiting belief that I have about
mm,
myself that is recreating the situation in my life? It's not to judge or shame ourselves. It's really to understand what may be going on. And then if we so the clue can be the challenge that's showing up in our life. And
mm.
then when we take a look at, do I have some negative belief around it? There might be a light bulb moment about that. And then we can really start to look out for those thoughts that pop in, and even ahead of time create a new thought to replace it. That's the positive messaging we want to give ourselves about that particular thing that is challenging in our lives.
I love that. And that's sort of like this is something you're big on teaching too, which is like building that conscious sense of self, that conscious awareness about how we're
Awareness.
thinking, how we're feeling, what we're doing, these things that are getting in it. We know the roadblocks we have, right? We bump into things all the time. And then to be able to say like, oh, I think, I don't remember if it was last week or the week before, but I was talking to you about imposter syndrome, right? Like that's one of my challenges that I'm currently dealing with. I feel like here's the thing about negative thoughts. They're normal, they're natural, and they're always going to be a part of our life, right? Like they're always just going to be a thing that we have to deal with. But that's not necessarily a bad thing. I think that's just a natural part of life. It's just
Yeah.
that course correction of those negative thoughts, right? So
saying it because let's not judge ourselves
Yeah.
when we find those the negative thoughts coming in. Let's just stay curious and notice and keep judgment at bay. I think it's a really important part of this process to keep us moving forward in the direction we want to go.
Yes, and that's such an amazing point, Sharon, because as soon as you judge yourself, you're now adding more negativity on top of it, right? So
Yes.
you're just piling the negative on, right? You first have the negative thought, and then you judge yourself or criticize yourself for that negative, for having these problems, for having these challenges, and that's not helping you get through them. That's only compounding the issues and making you stay in negative headspaces that are absent of or empty of the good ideas and creative solutions that are going to help you figure that out, right?
Yes, so true. If we can just be a keen observer of
Yeah,
ourselves and stay curious and open and not get all constricted and anxious and judging of ourselves in a negative way, you know?
right,
Yeah,
right,
it can be I notice I don't feel good when I have this challenge and I have these thoughts that go with that challenge in my life, and I want to feel better.
right,
How do I want to feel? I want to feel happy, I want to feel open. Okay, so what would be a positive message I could give myself? It's literally how we can write our own book
right,
about what our positive messages are, right? And but it is a moment by moment practice. It's not something that is one and done. You know, we just bring that into our daily practice. So it might be a gentle thing of knowing, oh, I'm not going to get this right every time. Let
right.
me just have missteps be an absolutely natural part of this process as I reprogram some
Hmm.
positivity.
Yeah, it's like going easy on yourself. I feel like that's never a bad thing. It's never going to be
That's right.
harmful to you to be easy and nice to yourself, to be kind to yourself, to be gentle with yourself, to treat yourself well, to be your own friend. So yeah, definitely.
I would say it's an essential part of it, wouldn't you?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah,
Because
yeah, yeah.
it's hard to get over the hurdles if we're so busy judging ourselves. Then how do we make change if we're putting ourselves down every time we notice something that's not the way we wanted it? We need to almost hug ourselves,
Yes,
our
yes.
imperfection. That's part of being human and it's okay. It,
Yes, absolutely. And there's something also, have you ever heard that thing about like hugging yourself? I heard this recently by, oh, who's that hypnotherapist that that we both have seen videos of before? He's part of Mind Valley. Do you know who I'm talking about? The hypnotherapist guy?
oh, thinking about, well, he's not, oh, yes, yes. Paul McKenna?
Yes,
Oh,
he was. I saw a video recently of him where he said even the act of rubbing your arms like this,
mhm.
there's a soothing nature in it. It's almost like giving yourself that self hug almost.
It
There's
feels good
some.
right now as
It,
I'm doing it. Does it
I
for
know. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
It's amazing how soothing that feels. Yeah. And
yeah. Especially if you
I
don't
know
have some.
it's
Yeah, you
another
don't have.
program to think that's only from other people who hug us. But yeah,
Right.
I'm noticing what you're saying. It's true. It's very comforting.
It's
It's
comforting. Yes. Let's just do this for the rest of the show, I think. um, I think
can
there's.
invite Kaleo if I think, he's, Kaleo has a tough internet connection. So I'm sorry that we lost you, Kaleo, because I really wanted to ask you if the reason you weren't admitting to your coaches that you had negative beliefs around winning is because you had shame around it. Because I think this is a really common thing. This is this form of judging ourselves, feeling ashamed.
Mm,
And let's just name it right here, right now, that we all get to have those thoughts creep in because we're human and we've all had negative messaging and
yeah.
positive messaging. So we have both of those things living in us. And it's just a matter of little by little, a process of discovery and new
Yeah,
habit forming.
and I feel like it's also super helpful if you're explaining your negative thoughts to someone with the intention of you're looking for solutions. You're looking for something to help you or to relieve something for you. It's like this is why we're doing this live stream. It's to help people who might be having certain challenges or issues in their own life They want to figure out a different way to think about those things, because that's ultimately the biggest fix. It's an internal fix. It's a mental, emotional fix, right?
Yeah.
So
I used to not even be aware of negative thoughts that I had that were driving the boat, so to speak. And
yeah,
I certainly didn't want to talk about it if I recognized them. Like there was,
right.
it felt very private, and um, and when something doesn't feel good, we often don't want to kind of let that out
Yeah,
because it just doesn't feel good, and you don't have to share it with the world, just with yourself. But sometimes it is really helpful, especially if it's somebody who can be part of your support system, you
yeah.
know, and it might be a therapist, a coach, it could be any one of a
A
number of people,
friend.
a
Yeah,
friend that you trust that can listen and just hold space for you
yeah.
without judgment.
Yeah, totally. And I hope that this space can be that for people too, if they feel like they can, whether it's in the chat or whether it's in like with Kaleo whenever he's back. I have a feeling we're going to see him again. It's not.
You do. Well, but we're already out of time,
I
Chris.
know, I know. I mean, like in the future, he'll be
Oh,
back.
in the future. I would love to have Kaleo back. Yeah, I'm sorry that we lost you, but I'm glad we got to have this tennis conversation. I
Yeah.
relate so much. I used to play tennis
Oh,
myself.
nice.
Yeah, so it was nice to hear that reference, because sports is often a place where we have a lot of inner talk going on one way or the other.
Yeah.
And my sister is a sports psychologist, so she's all about the inner game. Maybe I can get her on here sometime with
Oh,
us.
hell yeah. That's
Yeah,
fun. Okay,
yeah. Just
cool.
thinking of it in this moment, I will ask her. Yeah.
Yeah, that's fun. I just want to I want to wrap today with a little bit of like practical advice for anyone who might be watching, having an issue. I want to give something that can help no matter what the issue specifically is. This way they can have something to hang on to and maybe use as a tool in their future that might alleviate some of their issues. So, if you catch yourself thinking negatively, no matter what, again, no matter what the negative thought actually is, remember, and this is one of the main things that I'm trying to teach to as many people as I can, consider your headspace. Your headspace is everything. When you feel good, you're more on top of your game. When you feel good, you get better ideas. This is all logical, by the way. It's very logical, common sense. When you feel good, you think of your solutions better. When you feel good, you interpret things more favorably. When you feel good, you make better impressions on other people. When you feel good, you get more inspiration internally in your heart to do things. And so when you're struggling with something, remind yourself, okay, I'm in a negative headspace right now because of this issue. The best thing that I can do to help me in this moment and in future moments as I go about the rest of my day is to do something that will help me get in a better headspace. That could be going on a walk. That could be having your favorite dinner. That could be calling up a friend who you love talking to. That could be playing a game. It's often things that are off subject from the thing that's bothering us. And sometimes we think if we get off subject or if we do something else, then we're ignoring our problems. And that's not a good thing. Like we're sweeping our problems under the rug. But I will tell you, think about the logic of this. That's actually very helpful to us, because when we can tune our mind to something else, you can access then better, clearer headspaces, and then use those headspaces that you found, the clearer, better, more high vibe ones, to have a different vantage point to look at all your issues and see things more in perspective and with some clarity.
I love that, Chris. That is living from the inside out.
Mm-hmm.
And when we look out and things don't look very good, and inside they don't feel very good,
Mm-hmm.
then the way to shift them, what most people do is they try to shift their external environment. I need to move homes, I need to ditch my
Right.
partner. It's all externally focused, but it's really before any big outer decisions happen, it's getting our inner mindset in the right place, one that feels really good, that's
Mm-hmm.
joyful, that is tuned in to the wisest part of ourselves, not to fear or an old program negative thoughts that aren't serving us. So it's really about coming inward and making the shift there before we do anything else.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. If you change your thoughts, if you change your mind, connect it with your heart, and approach life that way, everything else in the external world can be figured out. It'll all naturally, but start inside here first and start inside here and here first internally, and then you'll see the outside. Yes. And
Give
then
the
you'll do
hug,
this, do
put
this.
it
Yes,
inside.
yes. And then you'll see the external stuff sort itself out. You'll make better decisions,
Yeah.
which will sort the external stuff out. You'll say different things to people, which will sort the external stuff out. All of that can be managed in a way better way if you start from within, right?
Yes. Yeah. I'm so glad we're closing on this note, because I think this is what really fundamentally is the first step. It's what matters the most,
Yeah.
is tuning inward when something's not going our way or we catch negative thoughts, and the answers are found from within. This is how powerful we are.
Yeah.
We can move mountains. We can shift the whole of the world. If we tune inward, we find peace. We find our place of joy, our happiness. When we go inward and we make the small shifts to turn that around, everything moves in the direction we want it to.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, before we wrap up, Kaleo, are you here by audio or no? Oh, you are
I
here.
am here, but I'm taking my video off, and because I feel like this.
You look and sound great
You.
now.
Oh,
We
does
can see you.
I moved to another area.
Oh,
Okay. Just in time for us to close the show. I love it.
Right.
we're closing, but can we get some closing comments from you about this topic, because it's so meaty, this topic?
Oh, it really is meaty, and I have a fork big as it can be. With this, I do want to, and I did hear your guys' last part that you talked about using your heart and also using your mind as well. One thing that I can leave off and that I try to practice myself is practicing gratitude.
Mm-hmm.
And trying to focus on what makes you happy instead of having these negative thoughts inside your head. So just what makes you happy and what makes you thankful, I think goes a long way, and it definitely can reset your mindset and, stop having a fixed mindset on negative beliefs. I feel that it works for me.
I love that. I have a meta question for you. Did you have any negative thoughts as you were figuring out your internet? It's just that could be really problematic, right? That could be stressful. Did you have negative thoughts about that?
As a matter of fact, I was just gonna make a joke earlier of saying of trying to figure out where I can find the best spot, and I was like, oh no, here comes my negative thoughts coming in.
But you caught it.
I caught it.
And you did shift it because you're back now and you seem in a great mood.
Yeah.
I thought stopped it.
You got to be in this spot when we get you back on.
Yes. Yes.
I do apologize, you guys.
No problem at all. I'm glad
it was actually a great example. Like that, it was like a great example of you practicing literally what we were teaching in the moment. So I think it actually worked out better than ever.
Hey, practice what you teach.
Exactly. All right, Kaleo, thanks for being here. Thanks for, please come back.
Thanks so much, guys. Yes, I will definitely try to have, I'm probably like what you said, Dr. Hoffman, I'll be in this exact same place. So it's much better for all of us. But thank you guys.
You're super clear. Yeah, we can see you and hear you really well there. So that is a good spot. But yeah, please do join us again. And in the meantime, we're just going to talk for a minute in closing about where you can find each of us. So Chris.
Bye, Kaleo.
Yeah, bye-bye. Sorry, bye. You can find Chris at chrisnewth.com. Check out his website.
Yes, you could sign up for cheat codes to happiness there. Some of the stuff we talked about today, but in the form of like you get it in your email every day, so you can look at it, read it, get some new perspectives that you might not have before, and just sort of learn the little common sense, easy, feel good things that you can do to change your mind, to change your heart, to change how your life goes, how you experience life. So sign up on chrisnewth.com.
And whatever you put even a little bit of focus on every day can really improve your life. So this is why I think it's so great. You just do an email out every day and just a little bit of focus for a minute or two, and it can make a bit add up to a pretty big shift. So thank you
yeah.
for doing the cheat codes, Chris.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. And Sharon, you could find Sharon on Clubhouse. It's a great app. I've used it many times. We actually met there, as you mentioned earlier in the show, Sharon. Sharon hosts a room on Wednesdays at 6 p.m. Pacific and Saturdays at 8:30 a.m. Pacific.
Yep.
And it's an open conversation where you just go in. It's Clubhouse is audio only. So when you sign up, if you're someone who doesn't like video, if that intimidates you, like it did me for a while.
You can be in pajamas, you can be in bed, and people tuning from all over the world. It's amazing. Yeah. I've started counting countries over the 2+ years I've been doing it, and 33 countries and counting have come in onto my shows. It's really wonderful. Always love and compassion are the leading forces on these shows, but it's a Q&A. You can come in and ask a question for clarity to lead from your wisdom. So please join me there and stay tuned for coming soon is my website launch, maybe this week.
Ooh, exciting. Can't wait for that. Okay, cool. All right. Well, we'll stay tuned. And just like it says on the little bottom there. I like that. Okay, great. We'll stay tuned. We'll be back. Yes, we'll be back with other live streams. Until then, hug yourself a little bit. And we'll talk to you soon.